Hey guys, Mike from Jeeps on the Run, as well as Midwest Adventure Life. If you're a Jeep owner and you're on Midwest Adventure Life, follow our sister channel over here at Jeeps on the Run. And if you like adventure, follow our channel here at Midwest Adventure Life. Today we're going to be talking about the Maxumus-3 tow loops. We tow our Jeep Wrangler behind our Class A RV. If you watched our previous videos, we show you all about hooking up and installing the Maxumus-3 product. Today we are installing some of the updated Maxumus-3 loops. We're going to get into the details of why we chose Maxumus-3, and we're going to get into some details on some important updates and what you should know if you're towing your Wrangler behind your RV. Follow our other videos all about braking systems, electronic light installs, battery chargers, and even simply how to hook up your Wrangler to your RV. We've got a lot of information here, so we're gonna head up to the garage and we're gonna put these Maxumus-3 loops on our brand new 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Sahara. Keep in mind, this information is relevant regardless if you've got a 4xe or not. So let's get going. All right, so as we already talked about, these are the updated ones. If you've purchased these in the past couple years, they've made a few changes to them. If you look on Maxumus-3's website, there are some additional reinforcement brackets that you can purchase with this. Well, it doesn't hurt with the install. If you install these correctly and you use them correctly, those additional reinforcement brackets are not required. If you've installed these previously and you haven't used the tow system properly, or maybe you had an incident without brakes, or you weren't using the tie rod bar, you might want to consider adding those reinforcement brackets to your already installed system. But we'll talk about that a little more as we dive in. The first thing we're going to want to do is we are going to want to take off the bumper. I'm going to start by removing this lower air dam under here, and then we're going to remove the entire bumper. A few tips and tricks about removing the bumper. So these are the pins. This is one style pin. A lot of people get confused about these. These are super easy to remove. All you do is pop out the center, and then this pin, the whole pin will come out. If you accidentally pop them apart, no big deal. They're kind of keyed when you go to put them back in, but when you go to reinsert them, you want to make sure this is open. You'll put it in the hole, and then you will push down on that pin. Again, save for removal. Now that I put it in a bad spot, but you're going to go ahead and get underneath that center, pop it up. I know it's going to be hard to see. And then go ahead and get underneath the entire thing. If you have a vehicle that has the Phillips style center, I'm going to give you a little tip. Just drill it out. You're never going to get that Phillips screw out. Just drill it out and replace it with these. You can find these at any auto parts store. So remove this one and one over here. Your other option is you can remove the half a dozen of them here, but if I just remove these two, it's going to come off with the bumper. Now a couple little tips about the bottom ones, I'll show you in a second here. There's an 8mm bolt right here, as well as one right here. Remove those two. And there's about a half a dozen or so additional pins here that we're going to pull out. If you have a tool like this, it will make your job easier. You can, however, pull these out with a screwdriver. These ones are a little more stubborn because as you try to pull out the outside, the inner part wants to come with it, and you really got to remove them in two pieces, or at least get that center part out. I'm going to get one out and show you what I'm talking about. That's the center piece, and then that's the inner piece. So again, you see how easy this tool makes it. You can get it with a screwdriver, but when you go to reinstall these, I would just put this piece in first and then come back. Again, these are kind of keyed, so they're a little bit challenging. Come back and put it in. You can install them like this first, but you're gonna have to push it in at the base. Otherwise, before it gets all the way seated, that's going to close and you're not going to get it back in. All right, so now we got the plastic air dam out and out of the way. The next thing I'm going to remove is this metal shield. This, I guess, in theory, you don't have to remove, but when we install our lights, I'm going to have to cut a chunk out of this. And if you're interested in the lighting install side of this, you can watch our other videos about how we wire this for lighting and keep the Jeep still looking nice. So it's just those two bolts. You kind of got to pop it up and remove it. So next thing we're going to do is there are bolts inside. If you get kind of underneath the bumper, you're going to see on each side of this tow hook, you're going to see four nuts on the back side. So you're going to reach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over there. And then the bumper will come undone. There are these plastic wings over here that you can remove if you want. It's just another dozen more of those plastic push pins. I can get to the bolts without it, but if it helps, you can remove them. And then what we're going to do is I've already disconnected the harness for the fog lights. But once I get this off, I'm going to show you how to disconnect this harness. On the 24s, the plug is a little different than previous models. The previous models, it seems very obvious. You pull the red pin and you unplug it. This one's a little bit different. I don't know who designs electrical harnesses. I think they just have fun with trying to make it hard. So I'm going to show you how to pull that. But my next step is to remove these 4 nuts, and we'll get this off. So I'm not going to lie, I cheated. I used my pneumatic impact. You don't have to use pneumatic, but a deep well 18 millimeter with a swivel head, you can get to all 8 of those nuts pretty easily without moving anything else. So they're all removed, and at this point, everything should just slide right off like this. It's kind of why I got this blanket here. Now what I want to show you is this harness. This is the wire harness for your fog lights. So in order to get this off, what you need to do is you have to pull this yellow tab back and lift up on this gray part like that, and then it will literally unplug. And the harness is right here on the passenger side against that frame rail. So that's your only plug, assuming you have fog lights, and then you can see the 4 bolts on each side, and then the bumper is off. Now, I'm going to go a little bit out of order according to these directions, which if you watch our previous video, the previous directions for these tow points, they did not give directions for the plastic bumpers. They only gave directions for the Rubicon bumper. They're still in metric. I don't know, the company's out of Detroit, but for whatever reason, everything's in millimeters. For us goofy Americans, I don't know. So not a big deal. I'm going to show you some tricks. You almost don't even really have to measure where these land if you have this plastic bumper. But we are going to have to cut some stuff out of this metal part. And then what we're going to do is we're going to install the hooks first, and then we're going to come back and we're going to adjust the bumper to fit back on. So we'll jump into the next step here. One thing I do like about the way they've packaged this hardware is you've got 2 separate packages in here. And basically one is for one side and one is for the other. The 2 things I should note is these are obviously not in the package. So as you would guess it, you're going to have 2 for that side, 2 for this side. The only thing that you should pay attention is any of the hardware that is not gold, such as this. So the gold is all your grade 10 or 10.9 or grade 8, whatever you want to call these. That's all your heavy duty hardware. These are for installation only, so these are going to be temporary. So you'll use these bolts on both sides, but otherwise the bolts are packaged per side, and then you've got your hook, and then you've got your spacer. These spacers are new. If you've installed these previously, you had some different washers to put on front before the bumper could go on, and this kind of fills some of the void here. We'll get into that in a second. So we're going to get these prepared, and we're going to show you what the next steps are. All right, so this is the layout you're going to need for each side. This is your temporary hardware. You're going to need the 2 M12s or 3 M12s, the 1 M10. You got your washers set out. 2 of these are going to fall into these encapsulated nuts. One is going to fall into this flange nut, and this one's going to thread into the frame. So just make sure when you're organizing your hardware, if for whatever reason the bags are mixed up, this is ultimately what you need per side. These you are going to share on each side. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off these little brackets right here. So there's one on this side, and there's one on that side. Same exact bracket. Those you can set aside. You are not going to use them again. I've got my Maxumus-3 and on my spacer, and we're going to put this right in here like so. I've got my temporary hardware. I'm going to just put it in here like this, and I'm going to just kind of hand tighten it for the moment. You're going to get an idea of what's going on. I wouldn't tighten it up yet because in case you need to move this around. Now if you get a view from the top down, you can see this spacer kind of fills the void, and it lands real nice. Now, if you had those additional brackets, they would go into these frame horns right here, and they would tighten this all together. Again, if you're adding this at this time, now would be the time to add it. It's not required if you do this setup properly. So we are not going to use those today, but again, you're not going to hurt anything by adding them. But I'll show you how to continue the installation without them. My first one, I've got this M10 here, and that I've got a washer on, and it's going to take a little finesse. We'll get that started here, and this is kind of why I say don't tighten these front ones up, because you're going to need a little help here. So we're just going to, again, I'm not getting anything super tight. We're just going to go ahead and hand tighten this stuff. The next is this M12. I'm going to put this through here. There's a capsulated nut. Now there's a hole in the bottom of this. You can get a wrench up to it, but if you kind of play the game of operation, you'll get your fingers in there and you can get this one started as well. Again, that one is just your normal flange nut on that one. I've got that one snugged up. I'm going to get that snugged up. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill these two holes here. I've got 2 more bolts, and that's where these are going to come into place. We're going to go ahead and get these through the frame and up behind here. And so my next step is I'm going to kind of, at this point, I am going to tighten everything up so I know it's in place before I start to drill these holes. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this stuff up. Again, not to like finished specs, but at least so I know everything's aligned properly. And then we're going to go and we're going to drill out those 2 holes. All right, so we got everything tightened up with those nice nuts they give you on the back. You almost don't even need to grab a wrench on the back side, but everything's nice and snug. We got to drill these 2 holes. So the drill bit I have is a 3164, and this is not a requirement, but it helps. Center right where that hole is, it's a center punch, and it leaves you a nice divot in the frame. So these are spring-loaded center punches. So when you go to drill, that bit's not going to walk around. It's going to land right in that hole that you just created. The next thing you want to do is make sure you keep this drill bit straight. The good news is you're not going all the way through. You're just going through this one side of the frame, but no less. You're going to want to keep the drill straight as you go. When you're doing metal, slow and steady is kind of the winner on this. High speed will just heat up the bit and wear it out. So just take your time and go for it. Okay, so we got our 2 holes drilled. Looks good. Those are your 2 bolts. Make sure you put washers on them. I wouldn't jam them all the way in yet. So now you need these guys. It's gonna make it a little easier. You're gonna want to bend this kind of like this, and then like this. Something like that nature you're gonna want, right? So now that I've got this bent, you're gonna want to start with the top bolt first, but you got to come in through the bottom. So it's a little bit of a challenge. You may kind of have to play with this angle just to get it right, but it's actually not really bad at all. I'm already started there. So we'll go ahead and get that tightened up, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of bend this out of the way, and we're going to do the same with this bottom one. Kind of make it like that. And we're going to get that guy in there. There we go. Okay, we're going to do the same with the bottom. Again, do it all by hand. Make sure you get it threaded so you don't cross thread anything, obviously. But that's it. Let's grab a socket here.
I texted him when I got back. But then
I'm just gonna snug these guys up. We'll go back and tighten everything up. And then what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to get rid of these so the bumper can go back on. But I'm sure there's multiple ways of doing this. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. There's one way, and there's another bend point right there. I'm probably gonna grab a pair of pliers and I'm just gonna bend. I'm gonna break that side off, and I'll push them in with a screwdriver. If you leave them there, what's going to happen is it's going to interfere with getting your bumper back on. But that's it, guys. We're going to tighten this all up. I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. But this one threads into the frame itself. This one, you're going to go ahead and put the nut on the back. These 2 you need to drill, and you need to put these capsulated nuts, tighten it all together, and repeat on the other side. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back and we're gonna show you how to cut the bumper properly. And then I've actually got wires already started. You can watch our other video on how we wired it. We'll finish that video off today with finishing the wiring for this. You guys, this is a really good way of towing. But we're gonna continue the other side. I'm gonna repeat the process and we'll come back with the bumper. So I got the bumper, it's upside down right now. This is the plastic style bumper. If you have a Rubicon style bumper, this isn't gonna work. You're gonna have to measure it out. But for those of us with the plastic bumper, you still have this metal frame in here, and that's what we need to cut out to accommodate. So if you look, there's these notches, if you will, along the bottom edge of the bumper. Each outside notch, ironically, is pretty much where these horns are gonna fall down. But we need to cut out this metal portion here. I've already started notching it with my Milwaukee cutoff wheel. Honestly, at this point, whatever tool makes the most sense to cut this out, you're gonna wanna cut this out to at least to here, depth-wise, so that this, your new toe point can fall into this section here. So I got as far as I could with the bit. So I'm either gonna get in there with the Sawzall or this vibratory tool. And I'm gonna finish this cutout here. It's probably not gonna be the prettiest, but you're never gonna see it when you're done. So we gotta cut this out, this horse-shaped U section basically here on both sides. And again, it's the outside notch on the left, driver and passenger side, that we need to remove this material. And then it will, when it goes on, it will fit on all the way, and then we'll show you what to cut on that lower air dam. So I'm gonna finish this job out here. I'm gonna start on this side or finish on this side. I've been starting with this Milwaukee cutoff wheel. It seems to work pretty well. It works better with a charged battery. You can only get so deep with this, before hitting guards and whatnot. All right, so I got my Sawzall with a nice metal blade, and let's see if this does any better. Now, I think we're gonna do the old bend and bend technique. Where are my vice grips? So we'll do might have to get this in a little further. There it is. Again, I know it's not pretty, but it's going to work. So we're going to finish that on the other side. Make sure when you're doing this that you don't hit your bolt down there and screw up the threads. That would be no bueno. Probably could use tin snips for that matter if you didn't have these tools. But that's it. I'm going to hit it with a file and probably just touch it up with a little spray paint too, just to eliminate any possibility of rust. I got all those notches cut out. One word of warning, maybe pull this harness up, tuck it out of the way, so when you go to put this back on, that you are not fighting it. And that should be it. I'm gonna get my head under there and look and make sure that we are bottomed out on all four sides. And this might be helpful for a second person. So I'm just gonna get this bottomed out and then we'll show you the next steps. All right, so these outside ones for the bolts for the nuts for the bumper are definitely difficult to get to. Now that you've got this extra inch plus of metal in the way. This is your friend, a little swivel, Harbor Freight special. Insert all your comments there, that's fine. Probably want to wear some safety glasses with this, and you want to make sure this is remotely straight, otherwise this thing lets go. That socket is going to be God only knows where. So it is not the best scenario, but it does work. All right, so we got all 8 of the nuts tightened up for the bumper. Not gonna lie, those outside nuts are a little tough. The swivel definitely helps. You might have to finish it off with an 18 millimeter box end wrench. Just get them all tight. It'll bring the bumper in. If it didn't line up perfectly or it didn't push in all the way perfectly, those nuts will tighten it up. Now here, I've just got finished putting on this lower air dam, this metal section. You'll notice here that mine is notched out. I've got a section here notched out. And the reason I have this done is I'm gonna put my electrical harness, my plug, my 6-pin plug is gonna go right here, and that's gonna be for my umbilical cord from the Jeep to the RV. So if you're not doing any wiring, you can just put yours back on as normal. Otherwise, I just measured from the center and I notched this out. And then you can follow our other videos and see how we do all of the electrical and why this is notched out. So the next step is we need to take this and we need to notch this out because this is not gonna go back on without being cut. So I kind of got this just to give you an idea. This isn't really centered. Just for frame of reference, you're gonna want this horseshoe area cut out. You're gonna want it basically centered with that hole. There's your outside hole, one in. Same over here. Your outside hole, one in. You're gonna want, and this is off for another reason, but you're gonna want this right about here. I'll get a tape measure and I'll let you know about how far down we went. And what I'm gonna do is I am going to use a hole saw, and the bottom of my hole saw is gonna make this bend. And then I haven't decided what we'll use yet. Maybe we'll use the Sawzall and we'll finish up those lines. And what that's gonna allow for is that's gonna allow for this to go on and slide right behind these points. Now, if you bring the camera over here, just want to show how well this fits. We did no cutting on the bumper. The only thing we did was cut out that metal stuff we showed you, so you can see just how nice that fits in that plastic bumper. It looks really good. All right, so forget the lines that are on here. That was from a previous project, but I'm kind of eyeballing it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm coming down here. I used my punch just to give me a spot. So I'm going 2 inches down from there with an 1.5 inch hole saw, which is centered on that hole like we talked about. Just go nice and slow. I'm just gonna let it go through the bottom there. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go right to the edge of that line. I'm gonna draw a straight line there. We're gonna draw a straight line here. You're gonna really want to bring it all the way out. Yep. So you're gonna clean that up. And that is gonna fit right around that ring, assuming we did this right. I'm gonna repeat this step on the other side, and we'll show you mounting it up. So we got both sides cut out, measured down 2 inches, 1.5 inch hole saw, and ran my line straight up. Again, just centering on this. All this stuff I've really done no measuring, short of that 2 inch measurement. If you center on those pins and you center on that, you almost don't even need a tape measure. So I'm gonna throw this in just to test it. So fits there, and if you zoom in on that, I don't think you could get much better. That's perfect. Before I actually put this in, I'm gonna drill a hole in the center of this that matches up with that, and I'm putting my 6-pin harness plug adapter here, and then I've got my wiring. So for me, my next step is to finish the wiring. In order to put that back on, remember you've got all those plastic pins. We talked earlier on tips on how to putting those back in, and don't forget your 2 8mm bolts in the bottom. Otherwise, if you're interested in learning how we wired it, follow our other video again with all the wiring tips and tricks. Guys, these things are really good. We've been using the Maxumus-3 hooks since our first JL, which was when they first came out in 2018. I have never had any issue, any failures with these at all. Maxumus-3 is really, really in the forefront of making sure everyone does this right and does it safe. If you assemble these properly and put them on properly, you don't need those reinforcement tabs. They're not going to hurt, but you don't need them. When you're towing, you want to make sure that you have the tie rod bar in between here and there, and that's on your drawbar, your tow setup. And the reason of that is when the vehicle comes to a stop, your tow bar is like this. And if you don't have that triangular link in the middle, the Jeep could want to push out like that as it comes into the vehicle. So that just kind of helps tie the whole system together. But even more importantly, you want to make sure you have a braking system inside your Jeep. Without a braking system, you have all that weight pushing into the back of the RV. I know a lot of people say, well, my RV's, it's 50,000 pounds and I don't need a brake system. Well, for one, it's illegal in pretty much all but 2 states. And 2, it's easier on your RV, it's easier on your Jeep, it's easier on your equipment. So don't ride without a brake system. You can see our other video. We talk all about the RVI. I'll give you a link to purchase the RVI. I've got links in the video to purchase all this stuff. Maxumus-3 is not a sponsor of the channel. We are just, I couldn't say enough about their product. They do a great job. I've talked to Joe over there numerous times. He's the owner. Very, very technical, very involved in his product, and it's absolutely top-notch quality. So check out our other videos on how to connect this to your vehicle, and we will have an updated vehicle just tying it all together and everything else. But we've got a lot of content both on Midwest Adventure Life and Jeeps on the Run, all about dragging your Jeep behind your RV. So again, if you are done, put this in, and congratulations, the job is done. If not, follow the other video for wiring. As always, please like and subscribe, comment below, let us know about where your next adventure is, and let us know what you tow behind your RV. So thanks, and we'll